Hi, welcome to the show. What is the best way to prevent distraction in the educational process? What is also the best way to prevent bullying? The answer? Take away the cell phones. Coming up in the 2023-2024 school year, one school district has a plan that could help out with decrease the cell phone usage, through the screen time. Take a look.
Almost anywhere kids go to school these days,
screen time is just too high.
Cell phones have become part of the classroom experience.
Cell phones, for different reasons, negatively impact a lot of our kids.
At Akron Public Schools, they found phones were also connected to the challenges students face: bullying, distractions, and mental health issues.
And they kept coming back to the same thing: a cell phone, a cell phone, a cell phone.
Steve Thompson says that's what led the district to a pilot program.
This is a Yonder pouch.
Students in select schools were required to lock their phones into a Yonder pouch that they would carry with them until the end of the day, when
these unlocking mechanisms are hung in the high school hallways. In those school hallways, they take their Yonder bag, click it, it opens, and off they go.
A survey with nearly 200 teachers found 96% agreed that students are more productive when their phone is in a pouch.
But I would submit to you that this is an effective policy.
77% of parents told the district they believe there are negative effects to using phones in schools, but nearly half also said cell phone use during school is necessary to support student learning.
It seems to be more productive for our students in many regards to not have access to the phone during the day.
Expanding the program to all schools would impact about 10,000 students between 6th and 12th grades.
And ultimately, I hope that we see increased academic achievement from our students because they're more focused and they're less distracted in the classrooms.
So the program would cost $180,000 the first year, including shipping those pouches, then $141,000 annually after that in a contract. The Akron School Board of Education is meeting right now for a vote on this, and Russ, it is expected to pass.
Of course, we'll have an update on this tonight at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Matt Rushfield, thank you.
I do think it's a great idea. So let's get right to it. Common sense alert. If you're being bullied, go to your cell phone. You have mental health issues, go to your cell phone. There's something going on in your life, go to your cell phone. That's what it was. Back then, they had rules which says you cannot use your cell phone while you were in school. And for this common sense, I'm going to show you a clip from the principal's office. And it will really shed some light. Take a look.
Now I have to meet with a student who was caught using her cell phone for the second time in the span of a week. So now she will be given an extended attention and won't get the phone back to the end of the year. Well, Lee, seems like you didn't learn your lesson the first time.
No, I had to text my mom. I needed something for my humanities class.
I got a question for you. Who's Becca?
My best friend.
Well, it seems like she might have a little texting problem herself. Because as I was sitting in here, you got a text from Rebecca.
Don't get her involved.
She's involved. But now I'm seeing that it's not just your mother, it's your friends as well.
It's inevitable.
Excuse me?
It's inevitable. We're 17 years old.
It's inevitable.
We're teenagers. What are we supposed to do without our cell phones?
I want to know what's so important that you took time out from learning marine biology. Do you normally text each other in class?
It is kind of a boring class.
I taught marine biology.
Oops.
Does that mean I'm a boring person?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
The class kind of is if you're not interested in it. You're learning about algae, and what's algae do? It sits there. I don't care about algae.
Algae sits there.
Yeah.
You know you're breathing right now, the oxygen in the air?
Yeah.
Algae produces oxygen.
Yeah, red algae, brown algae. I know, but it's not very interesting.
I'm gonna call Rebecca down. I think she is in class. Hey, Frank. Do you have Rebecca? Can you please send her down to the office? Thank you very much. I can't wait to see what was so important that she needed to text you in class. If Rebecca was texting her today, obviously it's been going on in class and the teacher has not been catching it. So my motivation to try to put an end to that. So Rebecca, how's marine biology class today?
Okay.
Doing anything you shouldn't be doing?
I don't think so.
You starting to recollect some things now?
A little.
So what were you doing in marine biology today?
Texting Lenny.
What was so important?
We got tickets to go see Maury.
More Povich?
Yeah. And so I just wanted to remind Lee that we were going and how crazy we were.
Do I look amused?
No, not at all.
Not at all. I was hoping you were going to tell me that you were texting about marine algae
Well, I mean,
or, photosynthesis.
most of the time I do it.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, it's not.
So let me state the facts. You're looking at not seeing your cell phone until June. You're looking at an extended detention and your mother coming in to get your cell phone, which you're going to give me right now. And you'll be serving a 90-minute detention today after school. I hope you didn't have any plans.
Not anymore.
Good.
Sorry. It's okay.
Now that's some common sense being raised. Come out next. This doctor says they're not pains, they're contraptions. Lisa Rudolph with pain-free labor. Still ahead though. More about being fired for racist. How would you feel if you were black and you couldn't be hired because of the color of your skin? Diane Sawyer with a hidden camera investigation. Stay with us. Over 4 million women give birth in this country every year doing the so-called old-fashioned way without anesthesia. The question is, does child labor have to hurt? Well, the answer seems obvious until you see this next story. It's about a doctor which you'll meet tonight who says child labor can be experienced not through drugs and anesthesia, but through the power of the mind. Here's Lisa Rudolph. Here's Lisa Rudolph.
Body is so beautiful. It's not bad, is it? It doesn't hurt.
Okay, it's one of those givens in life. Death, taxes,
I love you so much. I hate you.
and the excruciating pain of childbirth.
Hi, everybody, smile big.
That's the way the movie 9 Months portrayed it. And it's the way anyone who's ever been through labor without medication has probably experienced it. But does it have to be that way? Or could it be like this? This woman is in the throes of childbirth. No medication, no screaming, seemingly no pain.
Good girl, just relax now.
Even during the final pushes before delivery. Then, just minutes after calmly giving birth, she gets up from the table and walks out of the delivery room like nothing happened. No this isn't staged, and she's no actress. She's a patient of this man, Dr. Larry Goldman, an obstetrician-gynecologist in Fort Myers, Florida. Dr. Goldman says there's a better way to get through labor. Better than Lamaze, the deep breathing method. Better than an epidural, the spinal injection that numbs the lower body. It's a technique more commonly associated with quitting smoking or overeating. Hypnosis. Dr. Goldman says he's used hypnosis on more than 1,000 patients with dramatic results. Fewer complications, fewer cesarean deliveries, shorter labor, and less suffering. In fact, he's convinced there's no scientific reason why women should feel such pain.
You experienced labor pain, but actually what was happening is you experienced contractions of the uterus, which you interpreted as pain.
I can hear women all across the country saying, yeah, easy for you to say, you're a man, you've never had it.
That's correct.
I had them. They're pains. It hurts. For myself and for a lot of the other women I know, it's like, hand me the drugs.
If that's what pleases people, then that's fine. And we give this as an option of something you can do different.
Dr. Goldman says hypnosis is about being in control. You're not asleep or unconscious as you might have thought, but alert and very focused, like when you're exercising or engrossed in a movie, tuning out the rest of the world. In fact, he says everyone goes through hypnotic states all the time without realizing it.
We call it daydreaming. We call it automatic driving. Have you ever gotten in a car when you were real upset or real busy? And you may drive all the way home, and all of a sudden it dawns on you, you haven't been consciously driving. What's happened is you focused your conscious attention on something else, and your unconscious has done the driving. And that's hypnosis.
Does it work? These two couples wanted to give it a try for very different reasons. Don and Jamie Weiss, first-time parents who approached pregnancy with some hesitation.
First thing I said when the nurse came out and said, well, you're definitely pregnant, I looked at Don and I said, now it's got to come out. It's there, it's got to come out.
And Valerie and Scott Van Fleet, now expecting their second child, who say their daughter Taylor's birth 4 years ago was a nightmare. They, like so many couples, thought Lamaze was all they needed. Did you think, I'm going to go through this delivery, no medication, I'm just going to breathe my way right through?
Until we got there.
But her energy level was so low at that time, she really couldn't do the breathing. So, I mean, it got bad. All the blood vessels in her eyes were broken from the high blood pressure. She didn't look like the same person.
So this most beautiful experience of the world,
Was not.
It took us 4 years to get over that, to even think about another one.
Any problems?
Dr. Goldman has been an OBGYN for more than 2 decades. He first heard about hypnosis for childbirth shortly after medical school and decided to take a course on it. 17 years ago, he tried it with a willing patient and was amazed at the results.
Almost everybody has been in hypnosis at one time or another.
Though a lot of doctors didn't take him or the hypnosis seriously, he's so convinced of its benefits, he offers his patients and their partners a free 6-session course during the last trimester of pregnancy and invited us to sit in on it.
Have a good time. This is the birth of your baby.
Class number 1. Dr. Goldman's goal for this first session is telling the parents-to-be what hypnosis is and is not.
The goal of this class is not painless childbirth. The goal of this class is to be in control from start to finish. I'd like you to just breathe deeply, hold it for as long as you feel.
Although both our couples were willing to try hypnosis, they had their doubts.
Breathing in relaxation.
I laughed for a week about it while I was in there. I walked around the house chanting for about 2 hours.
You did. I said,
I
oh,
was going
stop.
home.
What does your sister say?
She says that she's going to call me 6 hours into my labor and that I'm going to be screaming for an epidural. She thinks I'm nuts.
I'd like you to begin to think of a very special, happy place. A place where you might go that has only happy, safe memories for you.
Myths and misconceptions aside, couples next learned how to do hypnosis themselves. They were told to pick a beautiful place, real or imagined, to focus on during labor and delivery.
And very much at ease.
I'm sitting by a stream of water and I can see the light coming in from the trees, some shade, just a real peaceful.
Pleasant atmosphere.
Just the beach. I visualize being there with my husband and my daughter, and it's a happy place for me.
Relax.
As the process continued, the couples practiced their hypnosis, still a bit skeptical, but very hopeful.
Yes.
We're
Got
hopeful.
nothing to lose. We've seen the worst. I shouldn't say the worst. It can always get worse.
Take your hand,
By the third session, the couples were learning ways to get into hypnosis faster.
push your fingers together.
First-time mom Jamie used this technique.
That's perfect.
My eyes got real heavy, and when Dr. Goldman asked me to stare at a spot on my hand, it was almost like I didn't see that spot anymore. I just almost saw through my hand. My eyes just got so zoned out.
And you will feel some pressure.
By the fifth session, perhaps the most dramatic test yet, Valerie was hypnotized, and then Dr. Goldman inserted a needle in her hand.
Feel very numb, very comfortable.
My hand was very cold and it felt very light. I wasn't sure if he was holding my hand or if I was holding my hand because I couldn't feel it.
To the amazement of everyone in the room, Valerie was told she could control the pain.
Keep those vessels tightly constricted down.
Dr. Goldman removed the needle.
See every faucet turned off.
Valerie came out of hypnosis, and there was no blood.
If you can control pain and you can control bleeding, there isn't much you can't control.
I watched her hand for a flinch. It didn't flinch. Her eyes didn't flinch. She had no clue. My confidence is growing seeing that.
Even with all the preparation, as they got closer to their due dates, both couples were anxious. Valerie and Scott couldn't forget how bad their first delivery was and worried it would happen again.
I'm nervous about it.
That you'll be able to do it, that we're going through it again.
Just that other complications won't arise as I'm trying to do my hypnosis.
For Jamie and Dawn, it was fear of the unknown.
I'm not going to be able to relax, and I'm going to be with my head spinning around, and that it's not going to work is my biggest fear.
Ever cross your mind that this could be a lot of malarkey?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Too early to tell. We're going into this blind. And we're just hoping that it's going to work.
And would it work? Would labor be pain-free like the doctor says? When we come back, more about this doctor's technique. Will it work, or will it be some kind of illusion? Lisa Rudolph with the conclusion to hypnobirthing. Stay with us. Now the conclusion to our story. Can you imagine going through childbirth with no drugs and no pain? If you were to tell a lot of your friends this, including your women, your girlfriends, they tell you, yeah, right. Call me when you're screaming. But that's exactly what a lot of couples are doing as they go through one doctor's hypnosis technique that would be pain-free. But the question is, would these couples go through this pain-free, or would they start screaming, knock me out, knock me out? See for yourself as the process continues. Once again, here's Lisa Rudolph.
We've had some wild deliveries with music.
Early on in the hypnosis course, 27-year-old Jamie Weiss, a first-time mother-to-be, had high hopes for how it would help her delivery.
I think I'm going to stay in control and be able to talk and make jokes.
That's the fairy tale version.
I always wanted to be Cinderella.
But a month later, when Jamie was 34 weeks pregnant, 6 weeks before her due date, her father died suddenly after a massive stroke. She began having serious doubts about whether the hypnosis would work for her.
I called Dr. Goldman and I said, I can't do this. I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, like, my heart is going to come out of my chest.
Then, something else Jamie couldn't control. The couples were supposed to learn how to handle complications during birth in the 6th and final hypnosis session.
We never went to our last one.
We didn't make it.
6:25.
Just 1 one day before the last class, almost 3 weeks before her due date, Jamie's water broke in the early hours of the morning. These pictures were taken at home shortly after it happened.
We didn't even have bags packed. But we weren't running around crazy. We both stayed pretty calm. Going over the Edison Bridge on the way to the hospital. Time says, what now? 6:40. 6:40.
Even though Dr. Goldman believes in hypnosis, he's still a regular physician who can and does use all the tools of conventional medicine.
We're ready.
When 8 hours later, Jamie still hadn't gone into full labor, Dr. Goldman decided to speed things up with a drug called Pitocin, which can also make contractions dramatically more intense.
I looked at Dawn and thought, great.
It wasn't long before her contractions started coming a lot faster and a lot stronger. But Jamie showed no signs of discomfort.
I keep telling myself with every one I'm getting closer and closer, even though I know I have a long ways to go.
In spite of worries about how the stress over her father's death would affect her concentration, Jamie, her father's picture next to her bed for good luck, was listening to her mood music and going deeper into hypnosis.
Dr. Goldman had told us that the more often your contractions come, the closer you get, you go deeper, and I did. I just feel like I got pulled into that tape.
Jamie, who just a few weeks earlier was on the verge of panic attacks, unable to concentrate, was so focused she was unaware of other family members in the room, or another woman in labor wailing down the hall. 12 hours into labor, Jamie's contractions were coming every 2 minutes. We checked on her progress with Dr. Goldman down the hall.
With 12 hours of work under her belt, she doesn't even look like she's breaking a sweat yet.
10 o'clock.
At 14 hours, she was walking around, even laughing.
I don't have any pain. I have some pressure. It's not that bad. Nothing I can't bear.
15 hours into labor, she seemed alert, but in fact, she had lost all track of time.
I said something to him about the 3 contractions that I had to stand there, and he said, you didn't stand there for 3 contractions, you stood there for 4 hours, and I had no idea.
After 17 hours of labor, the ultimate test of whether the hypnosis worked, Jamie's contractions were at their peak. Though she had taken a drug that makes contractions more intense, she'd had no pain medication whatsoever. For most women, a time of total agony. She was so calm, when Don's mother went into the labor room, she thought something was wrong with Jamie.
And the first thing she said is, oh my gosh, what kind of drugs is she on?
I heard her say, what did they do to her? And I said, I'm just relaxed.
All right, it's about 4 minutes after 11, and you're complete. We'll see how quick you can push this sucker out.
Jamie remained in control, never a cry or even a grimace.
And now make yourself very deeply relaxed.
At times, she even appeared to be asleep. Remember, she never learned Lamaze breathing. She had no epidural, nothing, not even a Tylenol for any discomfort.
Very good. Save up your energy. You've got all the power in the world.
Because she remained relaxed throughout her 18 hours of labor, Dr. Goldman says not only were the contractions less intense in spite of the Pitocin, she had also conserved energy until she really needed it.
Bring your legs up then. Take a breath. Take a breath and push. Good girl, keep pushing it.
After 29 minutes of pushing,
Push down, let it go.
Jamie and Don met their son, Jamie.
Perfectly rotate, now relax. Come out by itself. Now take a look at your baby. Hi, Mom. There's an arm.
And there it is.
Outside.
You're open your eyes. I don't know how, but I just stayed real relaxed from the beginning, and I think that's important. And every time I felt a contraction, I just pictured my whole body go limp.
Here's what you worked so hard for.
I think I could have probably lifted a house. I felt that powerful.
Contractions about 7 minutes apart.
5 weeks after Jamie, Valerie went into labor. And despite her and her husband's fears, everything was going well.
Getting ready for the big one.
Valerie was able to relax and concentrate on her special place at the beach. Until suddenly, at the height of her contractions, the baby was facing the wrong way. Dr. Goldman had Valerie lie on her side. The baby did move into the proper position, but a lot faster than anyone expected.
The whole plan had fell apart, you know. I mean, she went from 7 centimeters to fully dilated in about 45 seconds. None of the room was set up, and everybody's running around.
Getting our stuff together.
In the chaos that followed, Valerie couldn't concentrate and was coming out of hypnosis.
Did you lose it?
I didn't lose it. I was a little panicked.
Had Valerie and Scott gone this far only to fall apart in the final moments? It was starting to look like a replay of what happened to them 4 years earlier.
How did you refocus then?
As soon as Dr. Goldman came back in and reassured me what was happening, then I felt so much better.
Now you're going to feel a lot of pressure. You just give in to it. You let it come down. You've done absolutely beautifully. You rotated that kid. Didn't take long at all.
Within minutes, Valerie was able to relax again. But Scott, who was still having flashbacks to the delivery the first time around, was so tense, he sounded more like he was coaching football
Come on, push.
than the birth of his child.
Come on, you got it in. It's just because the first time she had made a comment that I don't know if I can do this, and I just wanted to keep her focused at that point.
Remember how Valerie looked shortly after her first delivery? Bloated face, pounding headache, and severe nausea. This time, there were no signs of that nightmare experience. Valerie looked rested, relaxed, even peaceful.
About 3/4 of the head out. Okay?
Concentrate on what you do.
Now, do the next contraction. We're going to do the shoulders, okay?
Okay.
Now the shoulders.
After 7 hours of labor, Scott and Valerie's new daughter Logan arrived.
Okay. Now give me tight. Okay, we're done.
Good job, Val. Now relax.
You done it. You did it. Hey, Paul.
Scott, come here.
It's a very warm picture of labor and delivery, as opposed to the picture of pan, 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 blow, 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 and the wife saying, get out of my face.
Some weeks later, we sat down with both couples and Dr. Goldman to talk about whether hypnosis met their expectations.
You said your sister was going to call you when you're 6 hours into labor and you would be screaming for an epidural.
Never, I was gone. I literally felt like I had an out-of-body experience. My body just almost felt weightless. I really felt just almost like I was floating.
Yeah?
It went great. We talk about it, we brag about it. We're just, when someone tells you their horrible experience, you feel sorry for them, but we're like, well, listen to ours. This is great.
It was the hardest work I've ever had to do. I had to make myself stay focused, but I stayed with it. I did it.
That's the hardest part ever. So you may be asking, after seeing this, are you going to recommend this? I would recommend it if you try this, but my advice to you would be to find an expert in hypnosis that would do it, that would help you out here, like Dr. Goldman. So if you're thinking about doing this process, consult your doctor about this. That way you can go through this without child labor and pain medications. Now, Sarah, we're going to talk about the racial hidden camera thing tonight, but we're going to save that in 4 days. We'll have that for you on Friday. Coming up next, though, this woman at 16 had a heart attack and would struggle to survive. Don Vitangelo on one family with a 16-year-old who had a heart attack. Stay with us. Think about this question. as parents, can you ever imagine your 16-year-old son or daughter is having a massive heart attack and you're thinking to yourself, gosh, it only happens in older people. How could it happen to my 16-year-old son? It happened to one 16-year-old daughter, girl you're about to meet in this next story. How could it happen? And could doctors save her? Tonight, you are going to witness firsthand at how doctors can save a 16-year-old having a heart attack. It's Jessica's story and the family story in their own words. Here's Dawn Fitangelo.
She was your typical teenager, very outgoing, very involved in school, a real love of life person. And I used to tell her, Jessica, I have a feeling this is going to be your year.
And it was supposed to be. 16-year-old Jessica Malore, a New Jersey high school senior, was a National Honor Society member, the co-captain of her tennis team, and an active member in her school's musical program. And she was looking forward to singing in more performances with her friends before graduating. Did you have a feeling that she thought, life is grand, nothing bad can ever happen?
I'm sure she did. I'm sure she could never anticipate it, just like any one of us could never foresee what happened to her.
What happened would shatter Jessica's dreams, her future, and force her to face a life-threatening battle she never imagined having to fight, but also one she was determined to win despite all the odds. It all began one terrifying night in the fall of 1998 when the Malore family went out for a celebration and instead began a journey to persevere against the greatest challenge in their young daughter's life.
And in the course of like 6 to 7 hours, everything changed in our lives.
Tom and Ellen Malore were with their family at a local restaurant celebrating an aunt's birthday. Jessica left to go to the bathroom. When she didn't return, her parents went to check and found her lying on the floor with her face white. She was complaining of chest pains and unable to get up. Not knowing what was happening, they rushed her to a nearby hospital. The doctor who examined her couldn't believe what he saw.
And he became distressed very quickly. Within 2 or 3 minutes, he turned to us and said that she was having a major event, which was his way of saying a major heart attack.
How could a perfectly healthy 16-year-old girl have a heart attack with no history of family heart problems or drug use and with a physically active lifestyle? Jessica Malore seemed a least likely candidate.
We just found it very hard to believe.
And then my husband asked him, well, does she have any chance of dying? And he said, she has a 20 to 30% chance of dying right now.
To save her, doctors wanted to transport Jessica by helicopter to another hospital with a more intensive cardiac medical unit. The longer it took, the more time her heart muscle was being deprived of blood. But major thunderstorms that night prevented any helicopters from flying. Instead, Jessica would have to be taken by ambulance for an hour-long trip. When they arrived, doctors thought they knew how to save her.
And they said, yes, she has a major clot. And we're going to do an angioplasty. And he said, but 95% of the times, that solves the problems.
The hope was to break through the clot that was starving her heart of oxygen by running a tube up her leg, through her artery, and into her heart. But an hour later, the doctor emerged with bad news.
And he said we could not break through the clot because it's lodged too tightly into our artery. And we are going to have to do open heart surgery to try to get blood into the left side of her heart.
Open heart surgery?
Right.
In a matter of hours, it was a nightmare, wasn't it?
Right. Turned into a total nightmare.
Doctors tried bypass surgery to restore the blood flow, and it seemed to be working. But then, after only 20 minutes, her heart began failing. Doctors had to open her chest again and temporarily attach Jessica to an external heart pump to keep her alive.
We thought she was dead. She was administered last rites and everything.
With her heart now badly damaged, Jessica's only hope was a new heart, a transplant. For that, she needed to be transferred to yet a third hospital, Temple University's transplant unit in Philadelphia. It was more than an hour and a half away. The quickest way by helicopter, again, was ruled out. this time because it wasn't big enough to fit all the machines supporting her heart.
And they wheel her into this very large ambulance, and they have to draw plans as to how they're going to fit all the equipment that's attached to her and get all the doctors that they need in case she starts failing in the ambulance. And every time they sped up down the highway, I was thinking, she's dying in the ambulance, she's dying in the ambulance.
I mean, she was literally at death's door, and we had to figure out what were we going to do.
Dr. Satoshi Furukawa, who is the surgical director of heart and lung transplantation at Temple University Hospital, couldn't believe this young girl had even survived.
If it happened to someone else, they might not have withstood it as well as she could have.
But the odds were not great she would last much longer. There was an acute shortage of donor hearts. Last year, more than 50,000 people needed new hearts, and less than 3,000 received them. With no hearts available, Dr. Furukawa decided on the next best thing, a gamble. That's if Jessica could even endure another procedure.
But would that procedure go through? When we come back, the conclusion of Don Matangelo's story about Jessica, would she come out of that heart attack, or will she be at death's door? Stay with us. Now the conclusion to our story. Jessica M. had a heart attack at age 16. But they were going to take her on a helicopter, but that was postponed because of a storm. For her to have an open heart surgery, they had to put her in a big hospital van. The question is, would Jessica come out of that heart attack, or would she be at death's door? Here's Don Mattangelo with the conclusion to Jessica's story.
In the course of 12 hours, 16-year-old Jessica Malore had more happen to her than most people have in a lifetime. A heart attack, open heart surgery, and now her left ventricle, the muscle that supplies the blood to the brain, the legs, the whole body, was destroyed. Her only hope was a high-tech machine to do the work of her heart. This is the tool doctors hoped would be Jessica's heartbeat. It's a left ventricular assist device, or LVAD, a HeartMate. This robotic-looking device made of titanium, the same material used in aircrafts and tennis rackets, would now be placed inside Jessica near her stomach. Part of the device would then be connected to the left ventricle of her heart. Blood would travel through it and be pushed by this motor, moving back and forth into her aorta to supply blood to the rest of her body. Everything would be internal except for a small tube at her waist that would be connected to an outside power supply run by batteries. Simply put, it would do the work of the damaged section of her heart. Before it was invented only 5 years ago, patients like Jessica would die. But after having gone through 2 major heart operations and still not knowing what had caused her heart attack, there was actually a risk it might not work at all for Jessica.
We took the chance and we put this other device in, knowing full well that another operation, yes, could kill her.
The third operation to save Jessica's life lasted 6 hours, and it was successful. A battery-driven mechanical assist device was now pumping blood through Jessica's body. But then, a new problem. It turns out there were complications from an earlier operation when doctors ran a catheter up her leg to her heart. Now, Jessica's left leg was infected, and doctors were asking the unthinkable: permission to amputate Jessica's leg above the knee before deadly toxins spread to the rest of her body.
Here you had to make a decision about having your daughter's leg amputated above the knee. Your active daughter who plays tennis, who loves being active in many different groups in school. How hard was that decision?
It was very depressing. It was so depressing. It was like she went through all of this, and we saw our daughter with all the tubes and everything connected to her and the way she looked. And now they were going to take her leg too.
Knowing Jessica might die, the Malores made a painful decision and gave doctors permission to amputate.
They let you walk with our daughter to the doors of the operating room, and we would sing a song that we used to sing.
What was the song?
sailing on Moonlight Bay.
When we used to go on vacation, we'd be in the pool with them, and that was a song we used to sing to them when they were small.
So we had sung that to her when she went into the room for the first operation for the machine. And it was very hard to sing it again when we knew that, they were going to take her leg off. So, but we did it anyway.
The Malors had no choice, even though they knew it would be traumatic for their daughter. But Jessica's reaction after the surgery was incredible. As her parents were about to learn, not only would 16-year-old Jessica's physical strength be key, so too would her inner emotional perseverance. What was the first thing that Jessica said when she woke up from the hospital?
Did I miss choir rehearsals?
That's the first thing she worried
First
about.
thing she said, yes.
She wanted to get back to normal. She wanted to be part of everything that she's always been a part of.
Right. She had a major operation, heart attack, everything, barely holding on to life, and she wanted to be out by Friday.
It would be almost 2 months before she could leave the hospital, and that would be just the beginning of a very long process filled with new challenges and obstacles. With a national shortage of donor hearts, Jessica would have to wait, relying on an artificial pump that had not been tested for long-term use. And of course, there were moments of sadness, but somehow Jessica would find the courage to face those as well.
She said that she wasn't really going to be confined to a wheelchair, and she stopped crying, and we continued on. It was like, it doesn't take a lot to bolster her. She wants to be optimistic.
That optimism has certainly helped Jessica recover. When we met her almost 9 months after her heart attack, she seemed to want to put us at ease, surprisingly matter-of-fact about all that had happened, and very accustomed to that sound you hear, the motor of the mechanical device keeping her alive. Can you feel the pump?
Well, I can feel it in the front of my stomach, and I can feel a slight vibration.
The mechanical motor pumping blood causes the vibration. In case there's a malfunction, an alarm goes off.
And as you can see, there are several alarms that could light up at any time. And I just push this button, and there are 4 green lights. That means I'm fully charged. And when I'm down to 2 green lights, I change my batteries.
What does this mean, the heart?
Well, this is the red heart alarm, and that means that the pump either is or is about to stop.
So that's the one you really have to be careful
of. The one we're very worried about. The red heart alarm has gone off in my house, and luckily I was with my mom all those times, so we were able to handle the situation. It's just such a part of my daily routine that it doesn't bother me.
But there were other new things in her life that caused her to worry. She had to be careful while walking on her new artificial leg. If she fell, she could dislodge the driveline powering her heart. Physical therapy has helped to prevent such accidents and to help Jessica gain strength and balance. Remarkably, to the point where she could return to some of the things she enjoyed before her heart attack, like playing basketball with her younger brother Matt. But there are problems even when Jessica is not on her feet.
During the day, I run on batteries, and at night, I plug into a machine that plugs into the wall.
So if you have to go to the bathroom at night, you have to basically
change my batteries,
change the batteries,
go on my crutches, and crutch the bathroom.
You make it sound easy. Has it been easy?
It's been a very hard struggle to get to the point where I am. Even now, I have to go to the hospital every week and get blood drawn, and I have IV treatment every 3 weeks, and so I've been stuck many times.
Still, she courageously looked ahead at the good times in life awaiting her, like seeing her friends back at school and attending her senior prom, and finally, graduation. Her parents wanted her to take it slow and return in a year. Not Jessica. She wanted to do it all.
I'm stubborn in a sense that if I want to accomplish something, I will be absolutely determined to do it and not let anything, a prosthetic leg or batteries or any hospital visits, IV treatment, get in my way.
And for a while, it seemed nothing would. She was back performing with the choral groups.
It just normalized things for her, that she could go back and sing and do the things she loves.
And preparing for that prom. Until a weekly blood test. Her red blood cell level was dangerously low. Doctors feared she was bleeding internally. Jessica needed immediate blood transfusions, but it took 12 hours to find a match. Finally, after 3 transfusions, Jessica had to remain hospitalized until her blood levels were normal, which meant she would miss all her appointments and not be able to attend the prom.
She was very upset.
But Dr. Furukawa knew just what to do.
He called up from our room and said, I have, an emergency here on 7 East, and I want you to come up with your kit. And up comes this nurse with her kit.
Not a medical kit, a manicure kit. Dr. Furukawa believed it was the best remedy he could provide at the time.
You put yourself in that child's position of all the things that happened to her. You want some normalcy. You want something to be like the girl next door.
She ended up being much more than that. When the next day her blood count normalized. That night, with a date waiting, a dress altered to accommodate her driveline, and a bag for her batteries, tinted of course to match her dress, Jessica Malore was crowned prom queen. It was a shimmering moment, but Jessica still needed a new heart. It had been more than 9 months since her heart attack, and there was a concern a suitable donor may not be found in time. At the same time, Jessica was focusing on the future, with much anticipated plans to attend Princeton University soon after her high school graduation. But 4 days before she was set to graduate, the Malores got a call. There was a heart for Jessica. The parents of an 18-year-old girl who had died had generously given permission for her heart to be donated, a gift for which the Malore family was eternally grateful. A donor heart can only survive outside the body 4 to 6 hours. As soon as a match was confirmed, doctors began to prepare Jessica for her new heart. Jessica's assist device was removed, along with her own heart, and she was placed on an external heart machine. There was no turning back. After 9 months of waiting and living on a device, Jessica's new heart arrived. There's a 10 to 15% chance of the body rejecting a heart in transplant operations. But with Jessica's history of heart and blood problems, doctors worried her chances of dying were even greater. Her parents were going through their own anguish in a nearby waiting room.
We're going to go through a risk now, and that's very scary.
No one would know if the donor heart would work until the very end of the 6-hour operation, when doctors would remove Jessica from the external heart machine. Dr. Furukawa delivered the news to Jessica's parents, waiting down the hall.
Everything went fine. Right now the heart's working, and that's as good as we can expect it to be. How are you?
All right. In the days following the surgery, Jessica had to be carefully monitored. She'll have to take immunosuppressant pills to make sure her body doesn't reject the heart, leaving her open to infection. And because statistics show transplant patients usually need a new heart within 20 years, 18-year-old Jessica may need another heart operation down the road. What's more, doctors still don't know what caused her heart attack in the first place. But in her usual spirit, she was looking ahead with optimism, despite all she'd gone through.
She stated that she wanted to have her transplant done after the prom and in time so that she can go to Princeton without a hitch, and I think she's pulled it off. She has better connections upstairs than I certainly do.
This fall, as more than 1,500 freshmen entered Princeton University, there was one remarkable student among them. While all may be smart, talented, and special in their own way, perhaps none was as courageous or determined or as strong in their capacity to live as Jessica Malore.
Jessica wanted to share her story with us to help raise awareness about the need for organ transplants and donations. More than 4,000 patients like Jessica are now on the waiting list for heart transplants. If you'd like information on how to become an organ donor, just log on to our website. The address is dateline.msnbc.com.
I think this was a great story to share with y'all. And it was a great story for Jessica. We don't know how she's doing now, but if she wants to come on this broadcast to tell us how she's doing, we're breaking it off her right now, and we're gonna wait to hear from her. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Can you ever imagine walking to a supermarket doing your groceries? Going grocery shopping here, gotta get some food. And all of a sudden you see someone dancing. Oh my, she's really good. I gotta get this on film. Get him, girl, get him. Rock it, leg it, shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. That's from Lauren and Elaine's new song called Thick as Thieves. Get it out on Amazon. Can you imagine? Just watch this.
Ma'am, this is a supermarket. A woman couldn't help but dance in the aisles when she reportedly heard one of her favorite songs playing in the store. A clerk even took a break from stocking shelves to watch the impromptu recital.
But luckily no one ever filmed. But the clerk took a break to watch her dance. So I'm really happy for that. Like I said before, come up on Friday, 4 days from now, we're going to have that racial discrimination hidden camera thing. But speaking of coming up on Give Me a Break Wednesday, we're going to take a look We're going to look at a case about I look at fire safety and could the diet sprinkles help lose weight? All that's coming up on Wednesday. That's Give Me a Break Monday going to Tuesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Wednesday. For everyone here at YouTube, concentration, not strength. My body, my choice. Stop bullying. Speak up. Have a good night.